Hey everyone, so we're back with Matthew 2, and 2 more weeks until basketball season is over, and I can start getting these out a lot more frequently and a lot more regularly. But Matthew 2 is the visit of the wise men, when the angel told Jesus and his family to go to Egypt. It's Herod's killing spree, basically. And then when they return to Nazareth, right? Those are the four topics in this, and there's something to look at in all of them. So we're going to start with Matthew 2, verses 1 through 12, and that is the visit of the wise men. And those verses say, "Now, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star when it rose, and he have come to worship him." When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And assembling all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea. For so it is written by the prophet, And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler, who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod summoned the wise men secretly and ascertained from them what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently." Yeah, that's the word. "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word, that I may too come and worship him." After listening to the king, they went on their way. And behold, the star that they had seen when it rose went before them until it came to rest over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy. And going into the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him. Them, opening their treasures, they offered him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed to their own country by another way. So, what can we gain from this? I know a lot of times these are those things, just like the genealogy in Matthew chapter 1, that are commonly looked over, and they're just a story, right? As, oh yeah, this is just, the wise men, right? And just this happens in every gospel. You read it all the time. You hear about it at Christmas all the time. And yes, those are all true things. But I think we can learn more from this. Like, for example, the wise men, they saw this star, right? The star was bright, shining, guiding them. And I think that that's not just a star. It's symbolizing Jesus. They saw the star on the way to Jesus, and it was bright and guided them to him. So I think that this is showing us that Jesus is bright, and he guides us. He brings us light, and he is the way. He is the truth. He is the life, right? It talks about that in John, which we'll get to soon, hopefully. But yeah, we see this star at the beginning of every gospel but John. And I think it's mentioned in the Bible, which is the truth of God, right? Because it's showing that God is bright and shining in a guiding light. And then it goes to how an angel came and saw the wise men in a dream when they were visited, right? And I think that first of all, this is amazing for Jesus' story, but it's also showing how God sees trouble coming before us, because, God sees everything. He knows what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. So he sees these struggles coming before they get to us. So there's times where he could prepare us for it, or there's times where things will happen in our life that are calling us away from somewhere that would have done us harm, right? And those are also kind of the same as this, right? How when these wise men saw this dream, that they were called not to go back to Herod, because it would have harmed Jesus. It would have ended up destroying him, is what it says. So I think we look at that as just kind of the same idea as the star, about how it's guiding and it shines bright. This is showing us that Jesus will take us out of struggle. He'll put us on a different path than we were originally supposed to go on, to help us to avoid struggle, so we can grow closer to him and learn more about him. So we get into verse 13 through 15. Those verses say, Now, when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, Rise, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him. And he rose and took the child and his mother by night and departed to Egypt, and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet, Out of Egypt I called my son. So, this coincides with what I just said. About how God will call us out of things, right? He called even Jesus' family out of struggle to go somewhere else to avoid a struggle that would have harmed them and would have taken away Jesus' life. He calls us out of those struggles. And now the next verses kind of show what that struggle he was taken out of was. And it's verses 16 through 18. Those verses say, Then Herod, when he saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, became furious, and he sent and killed all the male children in Bethlehem and in all that region who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had ascertained from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, weeping and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be comforted because they are no more. Right. And this just shows the struggle that God brought Jesus out of, right? And this can be kind of similar for us. There's a lot of times where God calls us away from something, and then you see that thing falling apart or something wrong happen. And that we can take that as a sign of God saving us from a struggle, just as he saved Jesus and Joseph and Mary from Herod, when Herod went and killed all these children. And yes, it's devastating. Yes, it's bad and harmful. But Jesus saved you from it. And you can put this into today's world. There's so many bad things going on in the world. And say Jesus called you out of something, you recently moved, or you're not going through something that you thought you would have been going through. Jesus called you away from a friendship or something, and that thing you're now realizing could have led to struggle, right? If maybe Jesus called you to move elsewhere, and now where you used to live, there's a struggle that would have been detrimental to you, but you moved so you're safe, right? That's Jesus calling you out of that to protect you, to guide you, just like that light guided the wise men. And now for the rest of the chapter, verses 19 through 23. It says, But when Herod died, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Rise, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel. For those who sought the children's life are dead. And he rose and took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judea in the place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there, and being warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee. And he went and lived in a city called Nazareth, so that what was spoken by the prophets might be fulfilled, that he would be called a Nazarene. So, with this is tying to that same idea of how God brings us out of struggle, right? It doesn't avoid the fact that Jesus struggled even in his early life. And you'll see in chapter 4, he struggles again with temptation, right? I'm so excited for that because I got a lot of stuff about that. But it's showing that there's struggle, and we can apply this to our lives, right? There's going to be struggle in our life. John 16:33, right? The world's going to bring us trials and tribulation. It says, John 16:33 says, in the world you will face tribulation. Not you might, not there's a chance. You will face tribulation, but we can take heart because Jesus has overcome the world, right? This is that very thing right here. Jesus faced struggle. If Jesus was facing struggle, we're going to face struggle, right? It's bound to happen. We're in a broken world. We will face struggle, right? But Jesus was safe because Joseph listened to God, right? Brought his family to Egypt, went to bring him back to Israel, listened to the struggle, the call away from it again, and brought him to Nazareth. Now, what does this tell us? Every time that Joseph listened to God, they were safe. Now, this tells us that in our struggle, that when we're going through something, that we should listen to God. Because when we can listen to God, and when we listen to God, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter who's saying this, who's saying that, but we listen to God, the one, the true and only God, we will be safe. And yes, it might be uncomfortable, but being uncomfortable is being good. Being uncomfortable is following God. Because you think being on that cross was comfortable for Jesus? No, it wasn't. Being on the cross was not comfortable for Jesus. So we aren't going to be comfortable in our walk with him. There's going to be struggles. There's going to be growing pains. There's going to be things that go wrong, things that are bad. But this right here tells us that that is okay. It happened to Jesus, and he will guide us out of it. One of my favorite worship songs, Egypt, they played at my church. They love that song. And it talks about how God marched in and took your hand and marched you out of Egypt, just like Moses did in the Old Testament with all the slaves that were enslaved in Egypt, all the Israelites. I don't know. But this is that same idea. You see them in Egypt, right? It says, this was to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet. Out of Egypt I call my son. I love that verse because it reminds me of the song and how much of a struggle Egypt was for the past and how Moses had to come in and take them from that. It reminds me how God comes in and takes us out of our Egypts, our struggles, our difficulties. And it took Jesus out of Egypt, brought him to Egypt to protect them out of it, to bring him to something better. So just trust God in your struggle, because you are going to face struggle. No matter what, it's unavoidable, and you're going to be uncomfortable sometimes. But trusting Jesus and that, listening to him, you will be brought out of those hard times and brought to God. And in every circumstance, just like Joseph did, trust God. That is my advice to you, because God is like a shining star guiding you and directing you towards him. So trust him and follow him.